Let's bring in now former Treasurer and my good friend, Josh Frydenberg. Josh, on that note, can you tell me about your personal family members who are in the Holocaust and in Auschwitz?
Well, my story is not unique, Sharri. It's like so many Australian Jewish families, and indeed Jewish families right around the world. I lost many relatives in the Holocaust, both on my parents' side, but also on my wife's family. And I grew up with a great aunt, Mary Frydenberg, who actually came to my first speech in Parliament. And she was a survivor of the concentration camps, and she carried with her for life the tattooed number on her arm. And she spoke little about her experience for good reason, but it was also a reminder that despite the Nazis' best efforts to destroy the Jewish people, they failed. And the Jewish people continue to live on, now facing challenges again with the rise in antisemitism following October the 7th. But like many other enemies before, Hamas and their fellow travellers will fail yet again.
Josh, in your powerful piece that you've written today on the Sky News website, and anyone can read it on the website if you haven't done so yet, you wrote about how if we were to observe a minute's silence for each victim, the silence would extend for more than 11 years. And you say that so devastating was the Nazis' genocide that the world's Jewish population in 2025 is smaller than it was in 1935. Josh, you know, both in terms of the trauma that the children and the grandchildren carry, and in terms of the Jewish population survive, the community's never recovered from the Holocaust.
It hasn't recovered numerically, and it certainly hasn't forgotten the tragedies of the past. But the community is also very resilient, and the State of Israel was not established because of the Holocaust, but the Holocaust happened because the State of Israel was not established. And I think that's really important to remember. A strong Israel is important to the world Jewish community, but it's also important to the global community at large. And that's underlined by that famous quote from Bob Hawke, our own Prime Minister, who said, if the bell tolls for Israel, the bell tolls for all of mankind. And right now, as a democracy in a sea of hostility, they're facing enormous threats, but they are making progress, and we in the Jewish community have a lot of friends here in Australia, and I'm hoping that the tide is turning. And I have been encouraged, Sharri, by comments in recent days and weeks by Christian leaders, by Hindu leaders, by other very brave individuals. Today it was Marcia Langton writing in The Australian about the hatred that has been unleashed on university campuses by the weakness and the indifference of university leaders in our country. There are a lot of great people out there like Nova Peris and others, and you know, I think it's encouraging to have their support. And I know, and you know, that there are so many Australians who have been appalled by the anti-Semitism that has been on the rapid rise since October the 7th. And they know that it's Australia's fight. They know it's Australian values that's been undermined, and they want to see our social cohesion restored.
Yeah, and I completely agree with all of those remarks you made about the incredible support from mainstream Australians who unequivocally hate the hatred and the racism that we've seen arise. Josh, you represented Australia at the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. I mean, 10 years ago when you went there, anti-Semitism just wasn't a daily issue. Could you ever have imagined that we'd be speaking about this on a daily basis now?
Well, it was a very solemn occasion, and it was a great honour to be there. And I thank Tony Abbott, Prime Minister at the time, for enabling me to go. And the most moving speeches back then, 10 years ago, I'm sure will be repeated again when they commemorate the 80th anniversary. And those speeches were from the Holocaust survivors themselves. And I remember a man called Raymond Kent, a survivor from Auschwitz, who said, "Don't let our past become our children's future." And back then, we needed to be on guard, and today we need to be increasingly on guard about people who want to minimise, deny the events of the Holocaust that took place. And I think we have a collective responsibility, Sharri, particularly our leaders, federal and state governments, to ensure that people across the country understand the gravity, the scale of the Holocaust, and learn about that history so we don't repeat it in the coming years.
So important. Josh Frydenberg, thank you as always for your strong advocacy on this area. Of course, advocacy that you were recognised for just yesterday by The Australian, or on the weekend by The Australian, as one of their Australians of the Year. Your voice has been so powerful over the past 15 months, and we're also grateful for that.
Well, thank you, Sharri. And you know, it's not about us as individuals. It's always been about the cause. And I just want to underline for your viewers, this is Australia's fight. This is not just about the safety of the Jewish community. There's something much bigger at play. And fortunately, the tide is turning, but there is still a lot of work to do. And thank you personally for your advocacy, your strength from day one. You haven't taken a backward step, and so many people not only appreciate that, Sharri, they are safer for it. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. We all have to do whatever we can. I always say to people, whatever skills you have at your disposal, use them, because this is so important. Josh Frydenberg, thank you again.